All right. Hello and welcome to Intuitive Connection. I'm your host, intuitive counselor and spiritual guide, Victoria Shaw. And today I come to you on the eve of July 4th, 2025. And I'm not a politics girl. I've really tried to stay out of things because it kills my vibe and it doesn't feel good. And if there's one thing that I believe is that feeling good is the way to go. And yet there's so much heaviness right now, and there's so much suffering right now, and there's so much divisiveness right now, and there's so much fear right now. I felt that I would be remiss if I did not come back on front of the microphone to see what the guides have to say. So that's what I'm here doing right now today. And about a year ago, I published an episode that was way out of my comfort zone, but it was something that I felt deeply called to do. And that was to have a conversation with the founding fathers. In spirit, of course. And in that episode, I had the honor of connecting with Alexander Hamilton, um, George Washington, and Benjamin Franklin. They were the ones that came forth. And it was a pretty mind blowing conversation. And I don't remember the details. But what I remember feeling after that episode was a great deal of optimism for what they called the experiment of the United States that they put forth. And so, again, today, I would like to tap into that energy. I'm being told it's a collective energy of spirits or souls, or just that came together in a particular period of time throughout different nations, not just our own, but particularly the United States, because the foundation of our democracy was quite pivotal and quite important. And they say, too, a sort of a blank slate, being that it was a new nation as opposed to something like France, right? That was, kind of older and already established, right? So they were kind of reestablishing it in the French Revolution. But in the United States, it was sort of like a blank slate. And so that made it very interesting and very important. And so they want to come and talk about the energy with which they created this country, and also about how we can all hold the space now to keep the light flowing on this great planet and this great nation as well. Okay. And really start to, I want to get this right from the guides, keep that heart focused energy here for all of us, right, on the planet right now. And those of us who are in the United States are thinking about the United States for that too. Okay. And, this has been a dark day on social media, a lot of doom and gloom, stirred up yours truly's energy just a little bit. And so I really do welcome these guides to come through. But I got to share a story really quick before they're right here. I can feel them ready to go in my spirit spot. Again, I wasn't sure I wanted to do this episode. I was a little nervous. So I pulled a card from my very sweet Allison D. Nicola. She was on the show, I think last year. Lovely deck creator, Divine Feather deck, one of my favorite decks. I get nothing for sharing that with you, but I love it. And I picked a bird called a nuthatch. No idea what that is. But the message on it was wowza. The message on this card is stay grounded and welcome the new knowledge and perspective that is coming to you. So you cannot make this stuff up. So I'd like to welcome back the collective of the founding fathers. And they're telling me there are women involved too. They are telling me that though, this is so fascinating. We sat in a room where men were mostly only allowed. There were women folk permitted into, and many of us consulted with them. Okay. So though they did not sign their names on the document, so to speak, they are saying, and though it was predominantly, they say, a male driven enterprise, there were women folk included in the conversations as well. And many of them were very, very impactful in ways that our male brains could not have computed at the time. So that's good to know. And what they would like us to know, they say, about this nation, and I'm trying to identify who's here specifically, though, again, it feels like a collective of energies that came together during this period of time to birth this nation and republics like it. Um, I definitely see George Washington front and center, and Benjamin Franklin again a little bit, and a few that I don't necessarily know. So we'll see if they want to come forward, but it's a group of mostly male energies. And Franklin says he's going to be front and center for me, because he said in many ways he was the architect. He was the architect, and he was among the wisest speakers in the group. Okay. He said, we are a rough and tumble lot, whatever that means. Um, but I was among the most learned among the consortium or the collective. Okay. And so I'm the one who's going to speak with you today, but I am representative of all of us, Victoria. And I am also, he says, a calm, grounded voice of wisdom at a time when such wisdom is needed. As some of my contemporaries, he said, were more battle wizened. Awesome word and verbiage here. Were more battle wizened. I was more analytical. I was more analytical and philosophical. And that is definitely the energy that is most needed right now. Okay. And he says, if you look at your situation now and you look at what's going on, you have to understand that in times of crisis, in times of transformation, oftentimes things look more unseemly and chaotic before they settle into a new normal, a new regular, a new structure. And they say this was very much the case in the United States prior to our emancipation. Okay. They said there were a lot of warring parties. There were a lot of disagreements, even in the way that, he said most of us who were finally in the room where it happens, those are my words, not his, but there's some laughter over there from the spiritual peanut gallery. For those who were there in the creative process of the Constitution and the creation of the nation, there were a lot more agreements, they say, than disagreements, because there was a collective knowing about what was the most important thing, to bring forward to create a nation that was different than the monarchies that they had known in the past, right? So there was an idea, they say, of what a republic should be, that they were very unified in their belief of what that should look like. But the nuts and bolts details, and they say some of these things are still things that we're arguing about today. They said those things, not so much. They said that what you call civil liberties, right? Who should be included, right? That they said was very much in development, and different people had very different ideas. And they say some of it's not racism. We know that was there. Many of our founding fathers were slave owners. But they're not even talking about that. They're talking about, the way we're talking about like immigrants and different groups, right? There was a lot of prejudice going on about who should be included, right? Who should be at the table, right? Who was worthy? Is it the landowners? I mean, they knew that they couldn't really limit it to that, should we exclude those Irish or like, so I don't know if this was that at that period of time, but the thing was these minor skirmishes, so to speak, were very front and present even at the time. The different people had very different ideas about who should be at the table, right? And who was worthy of being represented as part of this republic. Okay. So they say that's nothing new. The other thing they say is nothing new is a lot of the conversation about government role and what should be the purview of government and what shouldn't. And that's been, they say, a long-standing issue, especially in the United States. They say that in Europe, where there was a monarchy, right, there was a structure such that There's sort of an understanding that in a smooth running system, the people would be taken care of. Okay. And one of the things that really led to the shift, the revolutions in those countries, was the fact that the monarchy had become tone deaf to the needs of the people. There had become such a disconnect between the people in power, right, and then everybody else. And that disconnect is what led to a revolution to ensure that government would be responsible and care for the people, because that had stopped happening, right? Because government, the governing bodies, i.e., the monarchy, had become tone deaf to the needs of the people. But they say in the United States, it was a little bit different. It was a little bit different. And it was a little more of a philosophical understanding of what government could be. And of course, there was a sense that, monarchy and the king and that control and that had to go. And there was also a lot around religious freedom. I see that for sure. But they say it was also more nuanced than that. It was really a deep conversation about what it means for man to be free, right? What it means for man to be free, because they said in a traditional monarchy, everyone was in service to the king, right? And the king had the power and everything was in service. It was very hierarchical. And the goal of creating the United States was to eliminate that kind of hierarchy such that one person was ruler of of the kingdom of all else. Okay? And to distribute the wealth, it's not the wealth, but the sovereignty, right, to the populace, and allow them to each person to have their own sovereignty, right? To make their own decisions, even if those decisions were not aligned with, the one single ruler. Okay. And that's kind of what we're working on right now, right? And they say there's always the desire of people in power, they get heady, or up until now, I'm adding that. Um, to kind of take over and to want to control. And they say too that we all have that part within us. But really, they say that this great American experiment was to really empower the populace. And again, there's different ways that they understood that term, but for now, let's just say everyone, right? To really make their own choices and to distribute the power from the top of the hierarchy, across each and every man. Okay. And that's still, they say, what they're trying to do. Okay. This collective is also saying that they're very much looking over America, that they're very much holding space for what's happening here, that this American experiment is not just important to this country right now, but to the world in general and to humanity, because it was there was with great faith and purpose that this country was founded on the principles that it was founded. And they say each and every one of those principles has been tested throughout time, not just now. And there was definitely beginning to be a disconnect. Okay. And one that hasn't happened here yet, but definitely happened in other periods of time. This disconnect between people feeling disempowered and those in power feeling like, how do I say this? They say, go ahead. Their purpose and mission is to maintain control rather than to be of service. Okay. And so that's what's happening again now. But they also say that in this great test of the principles that they set forth is an opportunity to sort through those that were really true and right and good, right? And those that have created far more divisions than they have unification, right? And so, what they're asking us all to do now, and this is so powerful, and I feel this so strongly, like in every bone of my being, what they're asking us to do now is please, please, please have patience. They say, have patience with yourselves, have patience with your leaders, have patience with the greater forces. They say, don't give up. Okay. Simply don't give up and use this opportunity, not from a place of fear, not from a place of pain, not from a place of judgment, but from a place of true higher purpose and love, to imagine a world or a country, both, right? Where the highest principles of love and joy and abundance and freedom can reign. Because they said, at their best, this was the America, this was the United States that they imagined. And they said that this is still very possible. And so, they're giving me the image of a ship in a storm. And, it's an old time ship, like big masts and, sails and the rain and it's shaking and the water's coming down and everyone's kind of like all hands on deck. And they say right now, you think that ship is going down, right? You think this is the biggest storm that ship has ever weathered. But what they're showing me is that ship is actually just stuck on the ground. Like it's not going anywhere, right? And it's almost like, it's like a movie set, right? Everything's fine. And so they said, don't jump on the boat and shake it, right? Don't start pulling the sails down and saying, oh my God, look, the sails are coming down, right? Because that's what a lot of people are doing right now. A lot of people are running around the decks of this ship and they're jumping up and down and they're screaming or they're celebrating, depending on who they are, and they're pushing other people, trying to get them off the ship and they're making a big hot mess. But if you trust that foundation of that ship is holding strong, okay, you don't have to know how it is. And you just trust that this is just a phase and it will weather the storm, right? And then the tide will come in again and the ship will be seaworthy and we will start again. I see a new flag and a new nation anew, and one where a lot of the confusions and illusions that have been perpetuated from the start of this nation, right? And last time I remember the founding fathers talking about where they were in ego and how inadvertently, even though they all had a purpose and mission in mind, there were areas where they were in ego, where they were blind, where they were not totally aligned. And they said those planted the seeds for what we're experiencing today and more, everything that's happened since then, too. So, what they would love us to do is hold the faith, to look at what's going well, right? Rather than just focusing on doom and gloom and what's going wrong, because jumping up and down on that ship and calling disaster, right? Or jumping up and down on that ship and saying victory, right? None of those things serve. None of those things serve. That's just divisiveness and that's just fear, right? And I understand that for many of us are very scared right now, right? It's a lot. But you own the power. You own the power, they say, within you. And they say, align with truth, align with liberty, align with justice. Don't be afraid to speak out if you feel that you need to, if you feel that, but not because from a place of pain or a place of fear, but from a place of joy and a place of, I feel like this is a place of service, what I do feel called to share. Okay. Like this is my act of service. This is how I feel called to show up in this time and offer what my soul, what my spirit wants to share. And for you, it might be very different, right? But listen to that intuitively. And they say the more that we can align with the highest iteration of what the founding fathers intended, okay, and the highest iteration of the country that we would like to see, one that lives in truth, right? And equality and freedom. Freedom is huge, and joy and love and cooperation and connection and liberty, liberty, liberty. That's a word they really like right now, right? The more we will align with taking the great United States and this entire world into the next millennium, into the new age. It's possible. It's doable. right? We just need to not panic, to be patient, to open our hearts, right? And to spend as much time as we can sharing and spreading the love. So that's what I'm going to do tomorrow and today. I'm going to spend some time in meditation. I'm going to spend some time with my favorite prayer, Ho'oponopono. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. That deep healing that we can do within ourselves, that by doing so spreads light, love, and joy to the world. I invite you all to be of service in your own unique way, listening to your own intuition and following your heart, not from a place of fear, not from a place of victimization, not from a place of feeling, like everything's going to hell and you have to fix it single handedly, but from a place of love, from a place of joy, from a place of allowing, from a place of trust. And the guides say from a place of liberty, holding that candle, that light tomorrow and throughout is, they say, the best way to respond to your call to serve. So I'm sending so much love to each and every one of you. And is there anything else you guys want to say? They say we got this. All right. Happy 4th of July and namaste.